The time we have waited so far is finally here. In this part, we will be finally calling all the methods in our UI and you will see all the code in action that we have written so far. So let's go through it. First, we have to modify our main.dart. Here on the main screen, we will wrap this main screen with the block builder. So if you are using Android Studio, hold Alt, Enter and this window will appear in front of you. Search for block builder and hit enter. This block builder accepts the subject block and the subject stat, but as we are using the Cubit, so instead of block here we will pass the Cubit. So here we will pass the auth Cubit, remove this block Cubit, and also import this block which is coming from the Flutter block library. So now you might be thinking what this block builder means. This block builder is used when we want to draw a widget based on what is the current state. Like here, we will check if our auth state is authenticated. So we will navigate our user to the home page. Otherwise, the user will be on the sign in or the sign up page. Like let me show you, in the past videos, we have done our Cubit. So if you open this Cubit directory and go to this auth and auth state, we have this authenticated state which accepts a UID of the user, and inside this Cubit we have the method of the app started. So in this Cubit, this app started will make sure if the user is signed in or not. So here in the main.dart, we have wrapped our main screen with the block builder. So now we will draw a widget based on the current state, and this block builder also accepts this builder widget. That's the most important widget of the block builder. This returns a widget that we want to draw based on the current state. So let's change the name of the state to the auth state to make it more meaningful. And here we will check the condition. If our auth state is authenticated, if the user is authenticated and state is authenticated, so we will return this main screen here, and in the else condition we will return the login or the sign in page, and also navigate to this main screen, and here this will accept a final string UID and also pass it in the constructor and make it required. So now this main screen is dependent on this UID and we injected it directly from the constructor. That will be the UID of the current user and we will use this in this page. So go to the main.dart and now this required an argument which is UID. So we will take this UID from our auth state UID, which is coming from this authenticated state. And with this we also have to do one more thing. Subscribe to the eTechViral in the Instagram to improve your coding skills on daily basis. And be sure to check out the written tutorial to go through the lesson at your own pace. Wrap this material app with the widget, and that widget will be multi-block provider. This multi-block provider is because we want to provide multiple qubits when our app starts. We are using the block methods everywhere, and that's also compatible for the qubit because the qubit is the subset of the block. So here there is a compile time error just because this multi-block provider accepts the providers which is list, and inside this provider we will do block provider and this accept that create, and this create will returns the context. Instead of context we pass it just like this and this arrow function. Here we will request to our auth qubit, and to access this auth qubit we will directly do dependency injection or di.sl service locator, and by its type which is auth we will access it just like this and put parentheses here, so the compile time error will be gone, and from this auth qubit we will directly call this app started method which accepts the context and pass that context here. So when our app starts, so this method which is in our auth state, this app started will be called. This method is making sure if our user is signed in or not. If this condition was true, So this will take the ID of the user and pass it in the authenticated state and will navigate the user to the home page. If not, so the state will be unauthenticated and the user will remain on the sign in page. So that's the work of this app started method, and we are calling it directly when our app starts because we want it in here. And also we have to request all of the user methods in here because the user is our first priority. So when the app starts, so we will request to all the qubits of the user in here, and for the upcoming qubits like the post qubit, comment qubit and reply qubit, we will look for them that where to specify the block provider and where to request on a particular qubit from this dependency injection service locator. So here we will also do block provider and create just like this arrow function di dependency injection service locator and by its type credential qubit, and just like this. And from this credential qubit we don't need to call anything, just like this, so this will remain like this. And we also have to call the user qubit and get single user qubit, so we will replicate this 2 times and change only its type to user qubit, and also this one will be get single user qubit. And now import this get single user qubit and also this user qubit. So when our app starts, we will request on all of these qubits, so that will directly be called when our app is started, and these will give us the new instance each time when we navigate between the pages, because if you check in the injection container, these are the factory methods. As I said in the previous video, this factory method when requested will give us the new instance each time. So first time this will be requested when our app starts, and later if there is the need of it, so they will give us the new instance also. Now after this, if your app is not running, so run your main.dart, and if your app is already running, so hot restart the application. Now open the emulator and you can see we are on our sign in page. This is because now our user is unauthenticated. So this block builder draw up widgets based on the current state. So now our current state is unauthenticated, so we are on our sign in page, and that's good. So after this done, before going and calling the methods, I want to make sure one more thing. If you remember, we have created the Firebase project for our Flutter app, moved to the browser, and this was the app which we have created recently. So one thing you have to make sure before using authentication of the user, go to this authentication tab, and in the sign in methods, make sure your provider of email and password is enabled to avoid some unexpected exceptions in the future while authenticating the user. And also go to the Firestore database, and if you remember, we have created a user with the name John Doe and age 12 manually. So let's also delete this collection from here, because this will be created when our users sign up to the application. So it says type the user, so type users and delete it. So the user collection is deleted, and that's good. And now move to the Android Studio, and one more thing I want to clarify, go to the sign up page. As we have the image in here in the sign up page, and if you are familiar with Firebase, we upload our files and images in our cloud storage, that storage. So we are not going to touch this in this video, but we will cover this step individually in the next video, because that's a separate topic. So no worry about this, we will cover this in the next video. So now let's continue and again move to the Android Studio. The next thing we have to do is just to move to our credential directory and go to the sign up page first, because first we have to create our user from the sign up page, and then we will go for the sign in page. First there is a button container widget, and its text is sign up, and there is a function on tab listener. Here this method will return sign up user, and let's go and implement this method. Press Alt Enter and create this method. Inside this method, we will do block provider dot of context, and also in front of this of, we will specify the type that will be credential Cubit, and from that credential Cubit we will call the sign up user first, and this accept the user. The user is the user entity, open it, and this accept all of the fields we have in the entity. So first this email will come from the email controller dot text. That controllers are not yet created, I think, so let's do it. Create the controllers, make this widget stateful, and here create the controllers like text editing controller, that will be email controller equal to text editing controller, initialize it, and we have about 4 fields of username, email, password and bio. So let's replicate it 3 more times and change its name to the username controller and password controller, and the last one is bio controller. And also not forget to dispose it in order to avoid some memory leaks. So this will be email controller dot dispose, password controller dot dispose, and also the bio controller dot dispose, and also finally the user controller dot dispose. So we are done with this also. Now call these controllers one by one in the form container widget controller, username controller, and for email controller will be email controller, and password will be controller, password controller, and finally the bio controller. So that's good. Now go, and the email will comes from the email field, and the password will also come from the password controller, and the bio will be also from the bio controller dot text. Also this will be text, and the username will also be username controller dot text, and the total post will be for now 0, and the total following will also be 0, and the followers will be empty list. Total followers will also be 0. The profile URL will be for now empty string because we are not touching the Firebase storage in this video, and the website will also be empty string, and the following will again be the empty list, and the name will be also the empty string because user will put his or her username, and the other UID will not be specified in here, and also the UID. The UID will be, let's say, also empty string. Now you might be thinking why I pass this UID empty string, or let's say we are not passing the UID here. You might be thinking why I did this. This is because if you look at in the data layer, data sources, remote data source implementation, come a bit down, or here in the create user, we are accessing this UID from this method get current UID. So this create user will be called in the sign up user when the user is sign up. So from our Firebase auth method, we are calling the create user with email and password, and we are passing email and password here. So after this method calls, this will create a user here in the Firebase authentication tab, and this will generate the ID of the user. And here we are checking if the UID of the user is not equal to null, so call the create user method. So if our user is created and the ID is not equal to null, so our create user method will be called, and this will get the current ID of the user which is created in a while by calling this create user with email and password here, and that ID will come from the get current UID method in here and will pass in here. On that ID there will create a document on that particular ID and will be also passed as a field. So that was all the process of that UID. That's why we are not passing that ID in here, because all the process is done in the backend of that UID. And after this done, as this sign up user method is a future, so we will do .then, and this will return the clear method, and that clear method will be just to set state and user controller dot clear, and replicate this 4 times and change it to biocontroller and also the email controller and the password controller. So after this method completes, so this will call this clear method, and this clear method will set the state and will clear all the controllers or the text fields. And one more thing we have to do in here is to create a boolean variable in here that will be of boolean is signing in equal to false if the user is signing in or not. So initially it will be false, and when this is sign in method calls, so we will do set state and this variable will becomes true, and when this process completes we will set this is sign in to false. And here according to that we will control after this row we will do some size vertical about 10, and there will be a row children main axis alignment of this row will be in the center, and this will be some text please wait, and style text style color will be primary color and its size will be 16, and font weight will be, let's say font weight 400, and some spacing between them horizontally, size vertical horizontal about 10, and a simple circular progress indicator. Its color is by default blue, so that's it, that's okay. And that row will be only visible when the is sign in variable is equal to true. If it's true, so this row will be visible and will say please wait, otherwise there will be a simple empty container width will be 0, height will be 0. Like if the user is signed in, this method is start, so when the process completes, so this method will become false and this will disappear. And after this we have to do one more thing. After the user sign in, so we have to do some more configurations. We have to separate that body from here. I will show you how this scenario will be. Ctrl X to cut out, and here create a method of body widget and open it. This will return the padding widget, which is our body, and call this body widget in here. And on that body we will wrap this body with the BlocConsumer, and this BlocConsumer will be of credential Cubit and credential state. And this BlocConsumer is the mix up of the block builder and the block listener. I explained the block builder but not the block listener. So now first let's see what is block listener. The block listener job is just to keep listening for the new changes in the state and not to return a widget, because that's the listener but not the builder, as the builder return or draw a widget according to the current state, but that listener work is to keep listening to the new changes in the state but not returning the widget. That's the difference between the listener and the builder. We have the separate listener and the separate builder. Like in the main.dart we have the block builder, just like this we also have the block listener, and that listener only keep listening to the new changes in the state, but that builder returns a widget that is based on the current state. And in our signup page I put here the BlocConsumer, which returns the listener and the builder both. So what that means? I explained this builder and listener separately. Now let's understand what is this consumer. As I said, this consumer is actually the combination, or we can say the mix-up between block builder and the block listener. This is used when we want to draw something based on the current state and execute some actions depending upon new arriving states. Like we want to display something based on the current state and execute some actions with this. Like in our case, when the user click this button, which is the sign up, the button container widget. When this button container widget is clicked, so we want to navigate user to the home page, right? So when this button is clicked, we simply have to, in that builder, we will again check if our user is signed in or not. If it's signed in, if the authenticated state has the ID, so we will send user to the home page, otherwise the user will remain on the sign in page. And in that listener, if some failure occur in this credential qubit, we will show a simple snack bar that is an action that we want to execute with a new state. And we will also do one more thing, like to call the method from our auth qubit, which is the logged in. Like when our user signed up to the application and the user is created in the Firebase authentication tab and his ID comes in the authentication tab. So we will call this method to simply pass the UID of the current user in the authenticated state and send our user to the home page, and this login method will be called in the listener because that's some action that I want to execute with the new arriving state. So this will be just like this in the block listener. First let's change the name of this state to the credential state. I will check if the credential state is credential success. So what we will do is just to do block provider dot of context, and from this auth qubit I will call dot logged in to pass the ID in the authenticated state, and that's an action that I want to execute with the new state. And one more thing I have to cover in this listener is that if the credential state is credential failure, if there is some failure, so I will do toast, show a toast, invalid email and password. Correct the spelling of this invalid, and I want to execute these two functions with the new state. And in that builder we will again do change its name to credential state, and I will check if the credential state is credential success. Now that's different credential success that inside the builder, and that will draw a widget according to the current state. If it's success, so what it will draw, like what widget it will draw. So if it's success, so I will do this will return again the block builder, and its types will be the auth qubit and auth state, and that block builder will be builder context and auth state. And inside this body we will again check the condition if the auth state is authenticated and it has gotten the ID of the current user. So if it has gotten the ID of the current user, so we will return the main screen and pass this ID auth state dot UID, and in the else condition we will return this body widget just like this. And there is a compile time error. It says body might complete normally, causing null to be returned. It means we have to return this widget, so this error will be gone. So that was it for this. When this button is clicked, where is that? This sign up button, and this sign up method is called, and this sign up user method is again called from our qubit, and the flows goes to the remote data source, and here our sign up user method calls. This will create our user in the Firebase authentication tab. It will check for the ID. If the ID is exist and it's not equal to null, so this will call the create user, and our user will also be created in the Firestore database and also in the authentication tab. Now again move to the sign up page. When this button is clicked, so here this will also specify where to send the user. After writing this bunch of code, how to start the application to make sure everything is okay and reset everything. And be sure to check out the written tutorial to go through the lesson at your own pace. Now we are on our sign in page, and this emulator will cause some problems because if you look at, we have no internet connection. So let me restart this emulator so we will try it again. Okay, so I have restarted my emulator and you can see we got our internet connection back, and that's good. Again move to the sign up page, and here we are skipping this putting image part for now, and we will cover this step in the next video. Okay, so put your name, let's say John, and your email, let's say john12@gmail.com, and the password from 1 to 6, we can visible it and also make it invisible. And the bio of the John will be, let's say, full stack Flutter developer, and let's click this sign up. I'm expecting this will work on the first attempt. Let's check it. Click on this and it says user not found. What that means? User not found on that sign up user where we have put this user not found. Do you remember where we put this user not found? Let's go to the remote data source and check out the sign in user or sign up user. In the sign up user, we have the Firebase exception that we have indel email already in use, and also something went wrong. There is not toast of user not found. The user not found is in the sign in page, but we call the sign up page and this show the toast of user not found. Why is that? Let's check out the Cubit for making sure. Go to this credential Cubit credential, and that's our sign up, and we are awaiting the sign in user. That's why we have to await the sign up use case to make sure and call the sign up method instead of the sign in on the sign up. Okay, that was my fault, no problem. We are humans, we made mistakes. Okay, so now again how to start that application. That was really weird mistake. Okay, now we are on our sign in page. Go to this and again put our John and john12@gmail.com, and its password will be from 1 to 6. Bio will be Flutter dev, and sign up, and we navigate to our home page. That's what we are expected. Now let's go to the browser and restart this page, and in the Firebase Firestore we got users collection and a UID and some user data, the email of the user, followers and following empty list. The name is empty, profile URL is also empty. That's okay because we will cover it later. And total followers, total following and total post. UID is that UID and the John name and website. That's good, that's what we are expecting. Now let's go to the authentication tab and let's see our user is created with that email, and that's the UID of the user. That's good. Now one more thing we have to cover, as our user is signed up to the application and is created in the Cloud Firestore database. Now I want to log out my user by pressing this logout. So for that we have to call the method from our Cubit which is logged out. Simply call it sign out method, so that will be done. So in our profile page, here we have the more options and the edit profile and the logout. Let's wrap this text with the widget inkwell on tab. When this tab, this logout. So what we will do is just to call block provider dot of context, and this will be auth Cubit and dot logged out. So when the user is logged out or sign out, so we will do navigator dot push named and remove until context, and the new route name will be page constant dot sign in page. So when we log out our user, so he will be logged out, and this will send us to the sign in page. So that's okay. Now how to start the application, and you will see this will navigate us to the home page. Just because now our user is signed in, this will draw a widget according to the current state. Now our user is signed in, so this is sending our user to the main screen instead of the sign in page. Now let's try it again. Go to our profile page and click this and click this sign out. We back to the sign in page. That's okay. Now let's sign in our user. Before signing in, we have to implement the sign in page also, just like we have done for our sign up page. So now let's go to the sign in page, and here, where is that button? That sign in button. Here I want to call the method of sign in user. So that will be the method. Create this method, and before, go and create the controllers. Make it stateful widget, and here create the controllers of in the sign in page. You are familiar with that. We have only email and password, so we have to create the email and password controllers. Let's follow the drive principle. Do not repeat yourself. Go to the sign up page and copy these email and password controllers from here, paste it here, and remove this username from here. And also go to the sign up page, copy this dispose method, and also with is signing in, or this will be is signing up. Sorry about that, because that's sign up, not sign in. Let's change it everywhere. Okay, so let's copy this and change it, paste it here, and also in here, and the last one in here. That will not be sign in but sign up. So let's copy this and go to the sign in page and paste it right after this, and remove this bio and username controller, and this will be here is signing in, not the signing up. Okay, so now go and in the email, let's pass in the controller, pass the email controller, and in the password controller, pass the password controller. That's it. And here we have to do block provider dot of context, and in the off we will do credential, not failure but Cubit dot sign in user. This takes only email and password, nothing else. Take this email from the email controller dot text, and take the password from the password controller dot text, and put a comma here. Hold Ctrl Alt Shift L. This will appear. Hit enter to format it. This not format it just because put semicolon here, and again do it. So this will format the code. And as this sign in user method is also the future method, so we will do dot then, and in here we will do let's call the clear method as we did in the sign up page, and create this clear method. This will return set stat email controller dot clear and password controller dot clear. And also one more thing, that is our signing in. When the user is signing in, we will do set stat at the beginning of the method is called equal to true, and when the process is finished, so we will make it false. That's it. According to this, we will control our controller or our circular progress indicator, and in the sign up page, that's the please wait is in the wrong place a bit. I have to cut it from here. This will not right after this already have an account or sign in, but this will be right after this button container widget. So I will pass it here and put comma here, and that's okay. Now go to the sign in page, and also this will be after this button in here right after this. Paste it also here, only change the is signing up to the is signing in. That's okay. And now we have to do collapse this, cut this, and create a separate method here that will be body widget, and this will return this padding or our body widget. And go to the sign up page and go to up here and copy all of this code because I don't want to repeat myself. That will be the same code for it also because there is nothing fancy in here. Paste it right here and everything will remain the same. Main screen. Again, let me explain this code. BlocConsumer, which is the mix up of the listener and the builder. The builder, which returns a widget based on the current state, and the listener is just to execute some action with the new arriving state. So when the user is logged in, so we will again call this logged in to pass the UID to the authenticated state, and if some error occur in the credential state, so we will again do invalid email password, and in the builder we will do again if it was success, so we will again check the condition. If the user is authenticated, send him to the main screen, otherwise on the body widget, which is our sign page. So that was good. And also again go to the credential Cubit and make sure we are calling the correct method. Sign in user use case, user entity, email and password. That's okay. In the sign in page we are doing this also. That's okay. How to start your application to reset everything. Okay, so now let's put the email and password of the user that is already created in our Firestore database, or also in here. The email was john12@gmail.com, john12@gmail.com, and the password was from 1 to 6. So sign in. It says please wait. It navigates us to the home page. It means now our user is signed in to the application. Now if I logged out, that's the edit profile, log out and again try to sign in, john12@gmail.com from 1 to 6. That's okay. And again to make sure, go log out and create another user, name it to Steve, and steve12@gmail.com, and its password also will be from 1 to 6, and his bio will be, let's say, Android developer. Sign up, please wait. This navigates us to the home page. Now our user is created. Go to the browser and restart this page, and you can see the Steve is also created in here and will also be created in the Firestore database. Now that's our John, and that's the Steve and name. That's good. And now what we are going to do is go to the main screen, and in the main screen here on the scaffold we will wrap this scaffold with the block builder, and that block builder will be get single user. To get the single user here or the current user, also import the block library, and this stat name will be get single user stat, and we will check if get single user stat is get single user loaded. So if the get single user stat is get single user loaded, so we will return this scaffold, otherwise the center child circular progress indicator. and that's good. Now if I hot restart the application, this will show us the circular progress indicator, and that's what I was expecting. Now let's go in here in the init stat. We will call the block provider.offContext get single user Cubit, and from this get single user Cubit we will call this get single user Cubit, and we will access the UID from the widget.uid, which is coming from the authenticated stat. In the main screen we are accessing it here and passing it here. Now hot restart the application. So we again come to the home page and we got our single user on our home page. Now we will show the data on our profile of the user. So what we have to do is go to the profile page and here pass the final user entity, and that will be the current user. Press Alt Enter, pass it in the constructor, remove this import that is not used, and go to the main screen. Now this required the current user, so we will get this current user from here, from this get single user. This will be final single user, or let's say the current user equal to get single user stat dot user, which is a single user entity, and copy this current user, pass it in here, which is our current user. So that's good. Now go to the profile page, and here the username will be the user or the current user dot username. Copy it and come to here just like this. Total post will be current user dot total posts. Again copy this string, and the total followers will be total followers of the user, and total following will also be the total following of the user, and also the name will be the name of the user. And when we were signing up to the application, we passed the only name. If we come to the bottom all the way down here, we specify the name here, and in the database the name is empty string. So in the profile page we will do to check the condition if the name was equal to empty. So if the user has not edited his profile and specified his name and save his profile to put his or her name in here, so if it was empty string, he or she didn't edit it, so there will comes the current user dot username, otherwise current user dot name. So if it was empty string, so there will comes the username. If the user has edited his only name, so this only name will override this username, and there will comes that only name from the database instead of this username. Got it? That's good. Now the bio of the user will also be come from, let's copy this and paste it right here, and that bio will be bio. That's good. Everything is okay. Now hot restart the application. We are on our home page. Go to the profile page, and we got our username Steve, and as this name is empty string, so we got the Steve here. We got the 0 polls, 0 followers and 0 following according to the database in here. But there is a problem. The bio of the user is null. That's because I think we forgot something while we were creating the user. Go to the remote data source and check this. Everything is okay in here. Let's check our sign up page. That's also okay in here. Let's check the models to clear everything. Bio and bio and bio here, and there is not the bio. I think that's the problem. We forgot to put the bio in here, so that's why that's not in the database and is null. So let's do it. For this also, we should not make mistakes in our models because that cause really huge problems in our production application. So we must take care of this and don't make mistakes in here. So our bio will be bio and pass it here. That's good. Now how to start the application. To reset everything and go to the home page or profile page and log out that user, because that is not good. We will delete these users later because they do not contain the bio. So go to the sign up page and let's create the new user. So the new username will be, let's say, Bob, and this bob12@gmail.com. Password will be the same from 1 to 6 because that's easy to remember. I always use the password from 1 to 6 because that's easy to remember. Okay, so the bio will be Flutter plus Android full stack developer. Let's pass something, and that's good. Sign up. The user is created and is navigated to the home page. Go to the profile page and we got the bio here this time, and now it's not null. Now go to the browser and check the newly created user, that is here, and we got the bio also in here. So that was the mistake in our model. So I would advise create your models carefully because that's really cause problems in the production level apps. And let me show you one more thing. In the profile page we pass this condition: if the name was equal to simple string, so the username will come instead of this name, otherwise this name. Let's change the value of name from the database, that's empty. Let's say the name of this Bob is Bob Developer. So now update it, and now the name is not equal to null and this condition is false. So now I want to see the current username instead of this username in the place of only name. So you can see we got the Bob Developer instead of the only Bob. Now this name is not equal to null. So that's how this condition works. Oh, my throat is super dry. I talked so much. And we did many changes in our application. We sign in user in our application and also sign up user in our application, and we also show the data of the user in our profile page. And in the next video we will go for the uploading the user profile in the cloud storage here, and we will also figure out this edit profile page. So that will going to be the last video of our user, and next we will go for the post. So that was it for the video. I hope this video was helpful. If so, show some love in the comment section and also let me know if something is not clear to you. And with this, be sure to subscribe to the eTechViral and hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified whenever the next video is uploaded. And subscribe to the eTechViral in the Instagram to improve your coding skills on daily basis. And be sure to check out the written tutorial to go through the lesson at your own pace. For now, goodbye, and I will see you in the next video.